In the dense and perilous jungles of the Vietnam War, the skies were dominated by powerful high-flying jets. Amidst these aerial giants, the unassuming Cessna A-37 Dragonfly stood out as an unexpected hero. Weighing in at a mere 14,000 pounds, this compact jet was easily accessible at waist height, a stark contrast to the towering jets that required pilots to scale shaky ladders to reach their cockpits. As the conflict intensified, the need for close air support grew. Traditional bombers and fighters, while powerful, struggled with the dense terrain and the elusive guerrilla tactics of the Viet Cong. The U.S. Air Force, recognizing this gap, decided to transform the humble trainer into a dedicated counterinsurgency aircraft. Thus, the A-37A Dragonfly was born. The A-37A's performance in Vietnam earned it a reputation as one of the premier counterinsurgency planes of the war. Its success led to the development of the improved A-37B, which featured even greater payload capacity and endurance. By the end of the conflict, the Dragonfly had flown thousands of combat sorties, providing essential support to Allied forces and helping to turn the tide in numerous engagements. In the early 1960s, as American military involvement in Vietnam escalated, military officials sought an effective counterinsurgency aircraft. The Douglas A-1 Skyraider, a propeller-driven aircraft, wasn't meeting the needs of younger pilots trained on jets, nor was it suited for the dynamic requirements of the battlefield. Enter the Cessna T-37 Tweet, a basic trainer aircraft widely used by the military. In late 1962, the U.S. Air Force's Special Air Warfare Center at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida evaluated two T-37Cs for potential coin missions. The USAF saw promise in the T-37, envisioning an upgraded version that could carry a larger payload, have greater endurance, and perform well on short runways. In 1963, Cessna was contracted to produce two prototype aircraft, designated YAT-37D. These prototypes featured reinforced wings, larger wingtip fuel tanks, upgraded avionics, robust landing gear for rough fields, and a GAU-2B/A 7.62 mm minigun capable of firing 3,000 rounds per minute. Additionally, 3 stores pylons were installed on each wing, allowing the aircraft to carry a wide range of munitions. The first YAT-37D took to the skies in October 1964, followed by the second prototype a year later. The second prototype featured an additional store pylon under each wing, bringing the total to 4. Despite promising test results, interest in coin aircraft had waned, and the project was temporarily shelved, with the second prototype ending up at the National Museum of the United States Air Force. The A-37A had a gross takeoff weight of 12,000 pounds, with 2,700 pounds allocated to ordnance. It was a straightforward aircraft, eschewing advanced weapon systems for simplicity and ease of use. Retaining the dual controls of its T-37B predecessor, the A-37A could also serve as an operational trainer. In August 1967, the Cessna A-37A Dragonfly arrived in Vietnam under the Combat Dragon Evaluation Program. 25 of these nimble aircraft were stationed at Bien Hoa Air Base, ready to embark on a variety of missions including close air support, helicopter escort, forward air control, FAC, and night interdiction. Their combat loads were diverse, ranging from high-explosive bombs and napalm tanks to cluster munitions, unguided rocket packs, and the SUU-11A minigun pod. For extended missions, the A-37As often carried 2 additional external fuel tanks. Over the course of this period, the A-37As flew thousands of sorties. Remarkably, none were lost to enemy fire, although 2 were damaged in landing accidents. While officially dubbed the Dragonfly, pilots affectionately nicknamed it the Super Tweet. Despite its success, the Combat Dragon program highlighted some of the aircraft's shortcomings. The most significant issue was its limited range and endurance. Pilots also noted the heavy control response during attack runs due to the non-power-boosted flight controls and the vulnerability of its non-redundant flight control system. Additionally, the machine gun was criticized for obstructing the pilot's view and being relatively ineffective. Recognizing these issues, the USAF contracted Cessna in early 1967 to develop an improved version, designated the A-37B. Initially, 57 units were ordered, but this was quickly increased to 127. The A-37B was intended primarily for the Republic of Vietnam Air Force to replace their aging A-1 Sky Raiders. The first A-37B prototype rolled out in September 1967, and deliveries to South Vietnam began in 1968. The A-37B was a significant upgrade over the A-37A, with a stronger airframe capable of pulling 6 Gs and designed for a longer fatigue life of 4,000 hours, although field experience would prove it could handle up to 7,000 hours between overhauls. The A-37B weighed almost twice as much as the T-37C, with an impressive external stores capacity of 5,800 pounds. To enhance combat endurance, the A-37B typically carried additional underwing fuel tanks. It featured a nose-mounted refueling probe for probe and drogue aerial refueling, updated avionics, a redesigned instrument panel, an automatic engine inlet de-icing system, and revised landing gear. Like its predecessors, the A-37B was not pressurized. Powered by General Electric J-85 GE-17A engines, each producing 2,850 lb-ft of thrust, the engines were canted slightly outward and downward to improve single-engine handling. Air Commando pilots in Vietnam had found that flying on a single engine significantly improved endurance. Unlike many other USAF combat aircraft, the A-37 did not attract much media attention. It operated primarily in South Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, supporting U.S. ground forces rather than flying into heavily defended North Vietnamese airspace. Despite this, the A-37 proved its worth. A total of 577 A-37Bs were constructed, with 254 delivered to the RVNAF. By the end of the Vietnam War, the A-37 had flown over 160,000 combat sorties, with only 22 USAF losses recorded due to combat. As the war neared its end, efforts were made to retrieve as many A-37s as possible before they fell into North Vietnamese hands. However, when Da Nang Air Base was captured by North Vietnamese forces in March 1975, they seized 33 intact A-37s. On April 28, 1975, several of these captured aircraft were used by the North Vietnamese to attack Tan Son Nhut Air Base, marking a dramatic turn of events in the final days of the conflict. Amidst the escalating conflict in Vietnam during the early 1960s, the U.S. military sought effective counterinsurgency aircraft. Existing planes like the Douglas A-1 Sky Raider were proving cumbersome for younger pilots who were accustomed to more modern jets. Enter the Cessna T-37 Tweet, a basic trainer aircraft that caught the Air Force's eye for its potential as a nimble counterinsurgency plane. In 1962, the USAF's Special Air Warfare Center tested 2 T-37Cs, envisioning an upgraded version capable of heftier payloads and greater endurance. Cessna responded by transforming the T-37 into the YAT-37D, boosting its power with General Electric J-85J2/5 turbojet engines. Despite their success, the A-37A revealed limitations in range and endurance, prompting the development of the improved A-37B. Stronger and more capable, the A-37B featured enhanced engines, redundant flight controls, and better avionics. It could carry an impressive array of armaments and had a longer operational life. The A-37B also included a refueling probe, updated cockpit design, and improved handling characteristics. By the fall of Saigon, in April 1975, around 187 A-37Bs were in service with the Republic of Vietnam Air Force. Of these, 92 were recovered by the U.S., while the remaining 95 were used by the Vietnam People's Air Force in subsequent conflicts, including the China conflict in 1979. These renegade aircraft were eventually phased out due to a lack of spare parts, with some shipped to communist allies and others sold to private owners in the US, Australia, and New Zealand. After the Vietnam War, the USAF transferred their A-37Bs to the Air National Guard and Air Force Reserve, redesignating them as OA-37Bs for the FAC role. These aircraft saw action during Operation Just Cause in Panama in 1989. The OA-37Bs were eventually replaced by the more formidable A-10 Thunderbolt II in the 1980s and 1990s. The A-37B also saw extensive use in the Salvadoran Civil War, where they were supplied by the U.S. to replace destroyed Dassault Ouragans. These aircraft performed bombing, close air support, and interdiction missions, proving critical in the conflict. By the war's end, 9 A-37s remained operational. The A-37 Dragonfly, from its humble beginnings as a trainer aircraft, evolved into a formidable and versatile counterinsurgency plane, playing a crucial role in multiple conflicts and leaving a lasting legacy in military aviation history.